I'm the project lead at OpenVent Bristol. I'm Darren, and OpenVent Bristol is a COVID ventilator designed for use in pandemics, and it is the ventilator that you can see on the screen here, ventilating away. So since the beginning of our design process, when the project started, which was back in March last year, our design ethos has been the same as it is now, which is to design a ventilator which can be manufactured as quickly as possible. And what that means for us is that the design must be very simple, and it must use readily available manufacturing processes and readily available components. It's also something to note is that it's based on an ambu bag or a bag valve mask, which is the device that you can see in there that's being squeezed. It's a little contentious in some ways because it might not be the most optimum thing to do for a conventional ventilator, but the decision was taken quite a long time ago to base it on that when the project began, for a couple of reasons. One is that they're in great supply, they're readily available, but the main reason is because getting new parts and materials medically certified, which are within the airway and has air passing through them, it's a bit of a regulation nightmare. But the BVM was really nice because it was already approved for use in ventilator applications, and it had a lot of the valves and things that we needed to get that done. So, at being a pandemic ventilator that we're aiming at, we made a couple of compromises and decided that was the best route to go with. So where did the project start? So back in March last year, we're based over in the UK. So the UK government, similar to I'm sure many other governments, they asked lots of UK manufacturers if they can help with the effort to produce a large amount of ventilators in a very short space of time. And that was at that point in time, that's when I decided to start designing and trying to help that effort. So back then it was, as we all know, large numbers, like 30,000 ventilators are needed in the next few weeks, and there was a huge urgency on getting as many ventilators as we can as quickly as possible. So lots of manufacturing industries were getting involved producing those. So lots of designs were being put up on the internet and shared, and there was a real global effort going on. What I saw as an opportunity very early on was a way to try and simplify the design and try and make it in many ways as simple as possible to reduce that speed of manufacture, so that once it's designed, we can push that to manufacture and get that produced in a short space of time, because we're using readily available parts and processes and so forth. What I'm showing you on the screen here isn't a nice refined video. It's not a pretty test rig. It's not anywhere near a ventilator. But the reason I'm showing this to you is because every project has to start somewhere, and this was the first proof of concept test that we had. It took me less than a day to build this. And it was our first indication. I don't know if you can hear the sound on that, but it's a little bit noisy. But this was the first indication that this thing could have potential, and it gave us that proof of concept that showed, hey, yeah, we can use a motor, we can press a bag. Here's a sort of few ideas playing around, and this was useful to do. So not very pretty, but a useful step in any project to get things going. So I thought I'd share that. What that led to was this, which is what we later called the version 1 prototype of OpenVent Bristol. So I released this as a YouTube video. I also released a design open source, and we got something like 80,000 views in the first week or two. Things were going a bit crazy. We're getting lots of interest, which was really encouraging. And some of that interest was from different areas of the world. A couple of them, to name a few, there was a group in Pakistan that was particularly interested. There was a group in UAE that was particularly interested, and of course Helpful Engineering over in the US started a ventilator project based on this design. And we later then sort of joined forces and merged both projects into one, which then formed this test rig that you see here. which was kind of the second full test rig that was getting closer to kind of meeting many requirements. The video that you see there is it being tested with a test lung against our ventilation requirements and showing some good results. And that led into this, which is the test rig that we have today. And this is quite close to the finished design that we're going to be ending up with in the near future, albeit with a few changes. So how has Helpful been helpful? So one big thing is in recruitment and growing our engineering team and getting more people that we needed to help us with more aspects of the design. But also in other areas too, not necessarily just engineering. Of course, funding has been a huge part that Helpful have played. So there's a big chunk of funding that they helped to secure for us that was kindly matched by public invention by Robert. So very grateful for that. But I think for me at least, my observations, the kind of number one thing that Helpful has been amazing at is connecting people together and getting people to work with other people that can benefit both parties. And that's not just engineers, that might be doctors, QA, RA. Helpful's trying to create the building blocks for everything that projects need to get from where they're beginning to where they're ending. And I think that's super useful. So what's next for us? The next stage is to use the funding monies that we've secured reasonably recently to design and develop the final prototypes of our design. So that means the electronics, mechanical, software, and then once we've got the full designs and the full prototypes together, doing some final testing, and then submitting our design as open source to our website. As well as pushing our completed design to the first manufacturer who's quite interested to take this on and manufacture ventilators with potentially the entire design or maybe even part of the design over in Brazil. So something I didn't mention earlier actually is that we've tried to design our ventilator so that it can be modular. So if somebody wanted to take a part of the ventilator unit but not all of it, then that's totally doable as well. So if somebody wanted to take the user interface with the controls and the alarm functions and all of the fail-safe sort of software stuff, but they didn't want to take the air delivery system, the ambi bag, then that's totally doable. We've kind of designed it to be able to use in that sort of way. And that's everything for me, apart from a list of a few of the people that sponsored us on the way, which has been super kind. Happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thanks very much, everyone.